Hello, everybody. Hope you all have been having a good week so far. I myself, I guess it's been okay. Um, I've been feeling kind of down lately, to be honest. I don't know if that's because of the just the lack of sunlight or whatever, but I don't know. I'll go see my doctor at some point. But someone else appears to be having a mental breakdown of their own, and that is Donald Trump, who is posting all kinds of stuff about how, like, he wants to annex Canada. He wants to uh, annex the Newfoundland. He wants to annex Greenland. What else is there? The Panama Canal. Who knows? Maybe Cuba while we're at it. Basically, Trump is talking about expanding the American empire again for kind of the first time since, I guess, really the Spanish American War. Is that really, I think, like the last time that that sort of thing was even really in the cards. So I guess the question is, oops, I shared the wrong thing. I meant to share this video. So I guess the question is, and we'll have to bring up some tweets, but like, what is even going on? Is this just a schizo post? Is Trump trolling? Is there some method to the madness? Is this a 4D chess plan? Is this a distraction? I don't know. There's a lot of different theories towards this. Now, the most likely theory is that Trump is just being Trump. That is, he's just thinks he's trolling, or he's being clever, or he's trying to piss people off, or something like that. And that's really all this is it's just Trump being Trump. And there isn't really a higher meaning than that. And this is something that I have criticized with let's see here. Most of these people, I completely lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry about that. Oh, a lot of people have said about Trump over the years, and I've agreed with it, that while a lot of the stuff he does is funny, like the trolling, the mogging Justo, a lot of the stuff he does is very funny, and it's good for like a meme, and it's good to clap to, and to see all the people that Trump pisses off. I do think, to a large degree, it is exceedingly unprofessional, and it is unbecoming of the head of state of a global superpower. And I do get if there's a lot of like people, particularly in middle class communities, who see a lot of the like really kind of crude shit that Trump does, and they don't like it. Like they look at stuff like this and they just think it's really goofy. Um, and they dislike it, and like a lot of them might be predisposed to supporting Trump, but they just find that he has really bad optics, I suppose you could say. So let's see here. Does he have? I'm trying to find a. I guess it would be a Truth Social feed. Um, Truth Social. Okay. Hopefully, I can look at this without having to log in. So let's just go through and look at some of the stuff that Trump has been posting. Okay. Okay. Trump has talked about taking back the thing. Let's see here. Trump rings the bell. Holy shit! He posts like an absurd amount. It's kind of insane. Okay, so the Dunroe Doctrine, Canada 51st state. There's some plan to like rename the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, which frankly is probably going to get an RG award for cringe of the year. Yeah, so we got him posting the Greater United States. Canada's part of the United States. Um, he actually went on and did some like really long post about it. So I was also kind of thinking maybe this whole thing was just like a 40 chess move to get Justo to fuck up and to remove Justo from power. Like that seems like that was also maybe part of it. But yeah, so I think going through like this whole Trump, and if it was just a one or two off joke, like I could see it, but he seems to really be committed to this, and he keeps bringing it up on a pretty consistent basis. Um, and it seems to be pushing it, and now he's saying, "Oh, my son's gonna go to Greenland to sound things out," and stuff like that. So, number one, this is just a troll. This is purely done just because Trump wants to fuck with people. He knows it's going to piss a lot of people off, and that is the ultimate goal. And there's really nothing beyond that, beyond the fact that it's just causing chaos, and he likes to trigger people. That is the first theory, and that is probably the single most likely theory. The problem I always find whenever we're talking about these is it's hard for me to tell how intelligent Trump is. I find this one of the most difficult things. I don't know how much of like a deep thinker he is, how much thought he actually puts into things, how much of this is just him taking advantage of whatever the current situation is, or something like that. Like if he has some big narrative or big like grand plan for the United States, or he just kind of does stuff on a day-to-day basis. I just, it's very hard for me to know that sort of thing. And yes, Blue Team, I know that this has been a long-term joke, but can't recall a president doing this joke and kind of taking it as long and as far as Trump does. So that's number one. Number two, this is a G slur op of some description. This is a distraction. So Trump, there's a couple different things it could be distracting from. It could be a distraction for the Democrats to try to get them off kilter, to try to maybe sneak through some stuff at the beginning of his term, to get the election certified, to just kind of create a bunch of chaos in order to make a smoother transition of him coming in. So that's one thing he could be trying to do. He could be trying to divert attention away from himself because there is the whole H-1B thing, and a lot of people got pissed off about that and immigration. And this might be him trying to like fire up the base, go make America great again, make America bigger, make Canada America, make Greenland Canada. Those are also like things he could be trying to do to either rile up the base or just to completely distract from what was an embarrassing political failure. I think that's also certainly an episode with it, a possibility with regards to what Trump is doing. Let's see here. I'll read Anti-Annihilator's comment in a moment. So there's that. It could also be what. So Anti-Annihilator says, I think it's intended to distract the economy. If he ran on anything, it's out of control inflation. But to rein it in would be tough. The new signature policy changes the focus. Yeah, like I said, it might be this like circus over something that really doesn't matter will allow him to get a whole bunch of additional stuff done. Like he'll be able to pass a bunch more policies on the first day. He might have more flexibility with the war of Ukraine, ending that, and some of just the other things he wants to do immediately. This could just be one big distraction. And I don't think that's necessarily a 4D chess plan, nor do I really think that it's that much of a stretch. I mean, Trump does stuff like this all the time, where he will just kind of do something crazy, throw the game board up in the air, change where people are looking as kind of part of a way of getting out of trouble or offsetting his opponent. So I think that's certainly part of it, that this whole thing is kind of a attempt to confuse the opposition and maybe even to kind of unite his divided base. So that's the second option. The third option, I guess, is whether... I'm trying to think, what would it be? Would the war have happened in the first place if Trump was elected 4 years ago? That seems to be the conservative narrative. I don't think so. I don't think it would have, to be honest. Definitely it wouldn't have happened the way it did happen. So then let's move on to the third possibility. So we have, this is Trump having dementia. This is a distraction. He's using this as political cover to cause chaos or to get something done, or to distract his followers from the kind of crazy stuff that's going on that they're mad at him over. So the third one is, and this is the least likely, and this is probably not the case, but it's the normal answers are kind of boring, like just saying that Trump is has dementia and he's just posting about this because, I don't know, he just thinks it's fun or something like that isn't a very interesting theory. So likely, and this, could there possibly be some deeper logic? Some deeper logic here. Is Trump actually, if not a 4D chess plan, is this part of a broader forward-looking strategy? Okay, so. Okay, well, I mean dementia or just some other, mental impairment. So. Joe Blow, yes, sorry, I had forgotten about that one. Joe Blow pointed out that this could be a negotiating tactic for NAFTA or for Arctic sovereignty or some other stuff like that, where the goal is to kind of make all these demands as some weird maximalist objective and then go and negotiate and be in a better position. That's also certainly possible. So if you'll forgive the autistic digression, but I promise you there is a point. So one of the geopolitical events that I find the most fascinating was the 30-Year War, which was a exceedingly complicated, multi-phase conflict that pitted, initially it was the German and Catholic princes against the Protestants, but as time went on, more and more people got pulled into it. The Swedes came in on the Protestant side. France came in on the Protestant side as well. And then we had Spain come in on the Austrian side. I forget if Poland, Lithuania came in on the Austrian side. But basically, it was just a massive slugfest that it went on for about 30 years. Now, why do I bring this up? What it did to Austria, so Austria under the Habsburgs was the preeminent state by far within the Holy Roman Empire. However, this map doesn't really reflect it, but the Habsburg monarchy was very divided up. It kind of had territories all over the place. A lot of the areas in this place it didn't actually control. There was a lot of areas just kind of in between and stuff like that. So what wound up happening is who actually won the 30 Years' War is kind of kind of an open question. But the history I read of it made the interesting point that while the Habsburgs lost the Holy Roman Empire, that is, the dream of there being a nation state that would be a unity of all the Holy Roman Empire's territories, Greater Germany, if you will, ended, it did ensure a Austrian Empire. It did allow the Austrians to control and centralize most of their territory and leave them in a position where they would remain a great power for another 250 years or so. So while they kind of lost their stretch goal, what they wound up achieving was better than what they started off with. So, what am I even talking about? Maybe this is what Trump is thinking at the moment. That the greater American empire is over. The unipolar moment is over. All the stuff that had been kind of thought of since the end of the Cold War is over. And now what we need is to try to come up with what America actually needs. So maybe abandon some of these like weird stretch goals like Burma or I don't know. What are some other random countries America's involved with? Yemen or Libya or I don't know, just some other random countries it's involved with. Stop wasting money and resources there and try to focus on attaining a sustainable American sphere of influence. That is, countries that are useful, that are in geographically advantageous positions, and who have actual good relationships with America and our dependable allies. So that is a possibility. Is that he's trying to kind of shore up America's position, that is, to make America a stronger core country as part of a policy of moving back the sphere of interests, or as I said in a past video, to percentages, wherein there's an acknowledgement that Russia and China are also great powers, in that they're entitled to their own spheres of influence, and America will not contest that. And that the idea that every country on earth is going to be an American client state has just come and gone. So is there any chance that this is the thinking? Probably not. I do think definitely there is an aspect of Trump, and this is common with, I think, a lot of the newer generation of the right in America, that they do view a lot of the wars the U.S. fought in Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff like that was for the benefit of other countries or for the benefit of corporations or stuff like that. There's kind of a renewed focus on the idea that war should benefit America or its allies directly, and it should serve as a mechanism of geopolitical power rather than serve any sort of ideological point of view. So that could be part of it. I also do think so. Post World War II, and I know there's like all kinds of different mottos, there has been a bias against countries taking territory by force. I'm sure there's many cases where it's happening, but broadly speaking, the idea that you invade another country and unilaterally annex territory from it is something that I think has largely been frowned upon since World War II. And most of the changes have happened either through referendums or secessionist movements. But I maybe someone in the chat can correct me. Have we had that many like post World War II border changes based on direct conquest? I'm kind of struggling to think of any. Like, because we've had secessionist movements, obviously. Like Sudan split into two. North Korea split into two. Germany reunited. Czechoslovakia split into portions. But I'm trying to really think of a case where one country took over another by military force, um, and annexed it as part of its core territory. Constantine points out Saddam tried and was expelled twice. Yeah, and that's kind of proves my point a bit. Is I think there has been an intolerance post World War II for moving borders, based on that. Uh, yeah, North Vietnam. Okay, North Vietnam. Knob. Okay, that's true. North Vietnam. That is correct. Although once again, I mean, it's kind of once again along the lines of what I was. It depends if you okay. So it depends if you want to say that Vietnam was a civil war or it's a war between two sovereign states. Because you could make the argument that it was the country being two pieces was a result of decolonization, and stuff like that. So okay, so there have been some. Um, People are pointing out, yeah, Turkey and half of Cyprus. Although Turkey has not annexed northern Cyprus, it's set up a client state there. Let's see here. You could say Kosovo. Uh, India taking Goa, I think, is good, but it's part of post decolonization. I hopefully people kind of get my point though. There's been some, but I think compared to a lot of other centuries, it's been a lot more frowned down upon, or it's they tried to do some sort of other thing. Like they've tried to claim it was a referendum, it was a something like that. Blue team points out East Timor, but East Timor became independent again. So keep that in mind. That it was kind of restored to the balance. Once again, I know there's plenty of cases where it happened. I just don't recall there being too many like massive wars between great powers over territory, and a lot of stuff was just happened because of decolonization. Maybe that's not the reason. But I think there's been a general view, at least among the so-called civilized countries, that you post World War II we were going to try to avoid this sort of thing. So like China was not, oh, sorry, like France was not going to go to war with Germany over Alsace for the 50th time. Italy wasn't going to go to war with Austria. The United States wasn't going to attack Canada or Mexico. Stuff like that. And once again, it's an imperfect analogy, but hopefully people kind of understand what I'm talking about. Is I think there has been a strong normalcy bias, that is very inconsistently applied, but is there, which is often referred to as the rules-based international order, whatever that means. So I do think Russia invading Ukraine and outright annexing territory is kind of a game changer. Has kind of said, well, direct imperialism is up in the air again. India annexed Hyderabad. Yes, India did. Indian War. The Indochina War, I don't think any territory switched hands during that. Okay, so like I said, there has been some, but I think there has been something of a bias post World War II towards maintaining borders. Um, Once again, people can agree or disagree with me, but that's my point. But I think, like, because Russia has done this with a couple different countries, like Georgia. But in the case of Georgia, it didn't actually annex the territory. The South Ossetia and Abkhazia are kind of client states, but they were not annexed directly into Russia. You also have stuff like Transnistria, which is not annexed into Russia, but is a client state, and things like that. But I feel like Russia doing it so flagrantly, invading Ukraine and grabbing large amounts of territory, has possibly changed the script a bit. Has possibly said imperialism is back on the menu. It's normal now again for great powers to use force to take land. Once again, I'm just speculating here. I don't really believe it. We're just exploring possible ideas. So maybe this is kind of Trump going, well, I mean, if Russia is going to do this and China is going to expand and stuff like that, then the U.S. should stop kind of, as they view, pulling their punches, which is not the case, but you get what I mean. And they might as well take advantage of the current world order as it is to serve their best interests while they can. Constantine Martelli says irredentism is normalized, especially on an ethnic basis. So, once again, because people don't always get it. I'm not always saying I believe this 100%. A lot of what we do here is we're just exploring ideas. We're talking about ideas and stuff like that. So maybe that is what's going on. There's also I think the issue is America post Cold War was seen as so powerful that it was able to basically fight the rest of the world by itself, at least in terms of a strategic war. It could shut down most of the world's sea lanes. It had nuclear weapons. It had the biggest army. It had a big army with advanced weaponry and stuff like that. I think that was kind of shattered in terms of Afghanistan and Iraq. It still remained a superpower, but its status as kind of the all-powerful hyperpower country, I think, was shattered as a result of that. I think at the moment, if I had to give my personal take, I think America is still the world's only superpower. And Russia and China are the world's only remaining great powers. So it's kind of an unstable situation at the moment. Whereas I don't think the U.S. has the ability to militarily defeat Russia or China outright, like they might have been able to do in the 1990s or something. I mean, they never could have actually invaded either of them for a myriad of different reasons. But their military edge, I think, is a lot less now than it was even a decade or two ago. And the U.S. is kind of in danger of slipping down to become another great power or something like that. So the other thing, and Constantine Martelli also points out this out, that another aspect of this is America completely changed its industry and military doctrine to be anti-insurgency and lost a lot of its ability to produce TNT and shells and missiles and stuff like that. It was assumed that all they would be fighting in the future would be small-scale, low-intensity wars. So the slow rate of production makes sense. It was the number of shells they produce is more than enough if you're dealing with insurgents in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever. But for something like a war against the Russian military or the Chinese military, it's completely and totally inadequate. Likewise, building 500 Patriots a year might have been enough for dealing with the occasional Scud missile, but it's not enough for any kind of serious war. But so that might be kind of part of what Trump is doing is I think he might be preparing for what happens once the Russo-Ukraine war is over. Because I think that the US and Europe have invested so heavily in the Russo-Ukraine war that when Russia wins, it's going to be, even like economics aside, there's so much political capital that's been tied up in it. It's going to be devastating. The EU is going to look like a massive joke. The US is going to look retarded. all the bluster, all the stuff they said that Ukraine was going to like conquer parts of Russia, like this is how Zelensky can still win. We giving them all the money they want, all the weapons they want. Like the various Western countries basically just emptied out all of their arsenals and gave shit to Ukraine, and it wasn't nearly enough, and Russia's outproducing all of them. So the amount of like prestige and stuff like that, there's an old Arab expression of falling camel attracts many knives. And the loss there will make it look like America's a falling camel. Now, to be fair, losing does not necessarily mean it's existential. So I think a good example of this is the whole Syria situation. So last month, Bashar al-Assad's government collapsed, and and it was deeply embarrassing for Russia. Putin had put in a lot of political capital to support Syria. A lot of the Russian leadership was actually against him on that one. They basically said the Arabs are backstabbing dogs. You can't trust them, and you shouldn't have anything to do with them because they're just going to screw you or backstab you or be incompetent and corrupt, and it's just never worth doing business with them. But Putin decided he was going to go in and save Syria, and it looked like it was very successful. I don't think the Russians really committed very many ground forces, but the Russian Air Force went in. They dramatically helped the Assad government to push back ISIS and a lot of the other rebel groups, and it looked like it stabilized the situation. Russia got its naval bases near Syria. It got a foothold in the Middle East, and it's useful to Russia to be able to use those for its operations in various parts of Africa and to project power. Now, Assad collapsing is deeply embarrassing. He was Putin's guy. Putin had put in a lot of time and effort and money to back him up. And I'm not going to say it wasn't Wagner made a big difference on the ground. How involved was Wagner in the during the ISIS era? I wasn't sure if they were that big a thing back then. But yeah, so he put in a lot, and so the collapse of Syria is deeply embarrassing. I don't think it's existential because I don't think Russia ever made it existential. I don't think Russia ever used the kind of rhetoric that we use with Project Ukraine, wherein we're saying if Ukraine falls, democracy's over. If Ukraine falls, then Russia's going to overrun the rest of Europe. As long as it takes, Ukraine will join NATO. All just the stuff they've thrown in on it, I don't think can even really compare with Russia's support of Syria. That was not an existential conflict. It was deeply embarrassing. I'm not going to sit here and cope and like some of the people are doing and say, oh, well, it's good. Oh, it was a 4D chess plan. It was stuff like that. No, it was bad. But it wasn't like an existential loss. I'm trying to think of where something else, like America pulling out of Somalia or whatever, wasn't an existential loss. I'm sure some of the other American peacekeeping operations that have failed are not existential failures. They made Iraq and Afghanistan to a certain extent existential, which they didn't have to be at all. As I've said, like what they should have done with Afghanistan is provided air support and special forces to help the Northern Alliance take out the Taliban. The Northern Alliance takes Kabul. You declare victory and go home. Like that's really all they needed to do. But it turned into this 20-year-long odyssey of just incompetence, just failure. It was just deeply embarrassing. I mean, it wasn't existential to say it didn't destroy America, but I think the US and NATO and Canada and a lot of Western countries looked really, really dumb because of the Afghanistan situation. I would argue it made them look dumber than the Soviet Union did. keep in mind the communist government actually outlasted the Soviet Union, and I think was more effective than whatever the Islamic Republic was able to put together. So my point is, the Ukrainian war, Russo-Ukrainian war, is existential. They've basically put they've basically come up with this whole thing that unless we win here, it's going to be the end of the West, it's going to be the end of NATO and stuff like that. And I think they can't back out of their rhetoric at this point in time. And maybe Trump realizes that when he was able to, Trump realizes he's going to have to pull out or come to some sort of agreement. He wants to kind of be ready to either throw Europe under the bus and blame them for everything, or have some other plan, some sort of distraction, some sort of way to kind of make up for the loss of this big campaign they were going on. I don't know. That's just another possibility. That to a lot of people, this is going to permanently destroy the idea of the U.S. as the world's sole superpower. They're going to see that the winds are changing. Like, you know what? We're just going to take a field trip because I like playing random clips from video games. They think that this is what happened.
The wind has changed. Now, we fly like dragons! No longer will I bow to lesser men. All bow to me. But our enemies still march. So what? Victory is within my grasp. All will fear the order. All will fear me, for I am a shogun.
That was only tangentially related. I just like that clip. Still, I don't know. That's just a bit of speculation to throw out there. So let's go through the comments. Who is going to be the first person to stab America? I'm not sure. I do think, though, okay, so I think we have three great powers at the moment, potentially three superpowers. Ironically enough, Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. But I don't really see any of the other large countries of coming close to really rivaling Russia, China, or the US in the foreseeable future. Like, we have other large countries. We have Brazil, we have India, we have Iran, and Indonesia. But to me, they're just kind of like, they're so screwed up on like a local level, be it diversity, stuff like that. Like, Indonesia is a really weird country. It's massive. There's all kinds of different peoples within it. There's a lot of corruption issues. I just don't know if it can achieve the level of cohesiveness necessary to become a great power. India is India. Brazil is Brazil. The EU could be a great power if it ever got its act together, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I don't see anybody else really reaching that level. We're going to have a lot of other people who will become probably middle powers. Like, if Japan was to remilitarize, it would become a middle power. I think Iran is currently a middle power. Maybe Egypt. But I don't see anyone achieving the status. And someone pointed it out. a big issue is power projection. Now, one of the things that differentiates a great power or a superpower from just a country with a powerful army is its ability to project power. So, project power is the ability to influence things over overseas, outside of its immediate area. It's the ability of Russia, for instance, to have soldiers in Syria, in various parts of Russia, to be doing deals with Vietnam and South Africa and Indonesia. By the way, I don't know if anybody saw it, but Indonesia joined the BRICS. I think it was yesterday, out of completely nowhere. But Indonesia is now part of BRICS, so just kind of an interesting side thing. So they're able to project power. Russia is nowhere near the level that the US is, but they're starting to have it. You could even argue that these Russian hackers that somehow control the entire world's electoral systems is also them projecting power. Them and China are starting to be able uh, to fund some things like that, to fund political movements in other countries. You're seeing a little bit of that out of Russia. You definitely see a lot of that with China. China's built up its soft power in particular and financial power a lot. So I do think they have some degree of power projection. I don't think it's anywhere near what the US has because the US has aircraft carriers. People say that aircraft carriers are obsolete, and maybe from a certain perspective they are, given that hypersonic missiles can destroy them. But the amount of firepower and power projection an aircraft carrier brings to bear, an American supercarrier has more firepower than most world's air forces. Um, like, let me see, how many planes does a Gerald Ford class? Gerald Ford class. Gerald Ford class aircraft carries, yeah, 75 to 80 uh, aircraft, which is, and these are modern aircraft, so that is bigger than the vast majority of the world's naval forces. The ability to pull up with an aircraft carrier and having that many aircraft and being able to refuel them at the location and keep them in the fight is something I think you can't underestimate. Um, so I think they still have some degree of use in that sense. It's a bit like with Star Destroyers. Actually, it's very similar to Star Destroyers. A Star Destroyer is obsolete to a certain extent in that it's vulnerable to it's vulnerable to torpedoes or smaller fighters or stuff like that. But if you look at like what an Imperial Star Destroyer actually has, it has a legion of stormtroopers, it has AT-ATs, it has tanks, it has garrison bases, it has fighters, all that kind of stuff. So a Star Destroyer is very effective at controlling a system or a sector, even if it's not really capable, even if it has some shortcomings against smaller things. Yeah, carrier group is enough to send down. Yeah, let's see here. The whole fiat money system. I mean, I've talked about the fiat money system many times. I just don't see why I have to bring it up here. Um, we can talk about that because that is a way that the U.S. is gradually losing some of its global power. Is that the decision to weaponize the U.S. dollar during the Russo-Ukraine war? I think very much has done a lot of damage, and I think you do see BRICS. I don't think BRICS will ever be a military alliance, but I do think it is moving to try to find a. It can try to develop an alternate currency system or banking message system or stuff like that that will reduce the dominance of American financial power. But I I don't think that the U.S. has anything at the moment that can shoot down an Resnick. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there is anything though. I feel like the Resnick is too like I don't think there is anything that can shoot down hypersonic missiles. Nick missile. Yeah, it's Mach 10. I don't know if anything can shoot down a Mach 10 missile. Yeah, Turkey, I think, is now an associated state of the BRICS. So, like, Putin has said that I will pick a spot, we'll fire the Orezhnik at it, and you can have as much time to prepare as you wanted. But we will still be able to hit the spot, and you will not be able to intercept it. Now, just because the Russians have it, does that necessarily mean that they're like all powerful? No, but it is a game changer. It is a game changer, and I do think it signifies, I don't know, just kind of a new phase in warfare. The hypersonic missile thing, I think, has been very interesting to me. In that it kind of shifted the paradigm back in favor of offense instead of defense. Let's see here. Actually, an interesting thing about the Orezhnik, it's still debated whether or not the one that they fired, had explosive charges on it or not. It might just its standard loadout might just be titanium rods. It might just be a mass driver that uses its immense kinetic force to destroy things. It also can be fitted with explosive warheads, but that is one theory as to one of the things that it can do. Let's see here. Okay. Like, do you think that the U.S. Army is capable of producing something like this? Building a Mach 10 missile that has, like, 6 warheads with submunitions. Could the U.S. build something like this? And could they mass produce it? I don't know. I like this. According to none of the technology is novel or represents a dramatic change in the way that conventional weapons are developed. Rather, it is a series of old technologies that have been put together in a new way. A defense expert that it likely incorporates no more than 10% new components. Is that supposed to be an insult? Like that they were like, well, we'll just take proven technology and put it together. Like, yes, George, you can post there. Jeez. If you post spam or like other stuff like that, though, you will be banned. Okay, could you cite me what this legal restriction is on what Germany's allowed to build? Like, is it? Is there one post World War II? Okay, I think it's just. Okay, maybe there is. Okay, so there is no. Okay, so nuclear weapons are banned. I'm gonna have to verify that. You could just tell me the site and I will look it up. I don't know. Just post what I have to Google to find it. Because I don't know. I know that Germany is restricted from having nuclear weapons. That is definitely the case. But I don't. I haven't seen anything seriously that says that the treaty still restricts the number of active personnel. Maybe it has, and I'm just not. I'm just not thinking about it. Okay, history of the German army. Okay, so let's see what it says here. The reduction had to be made. Okay, so there was a limit. Let's see here. Is that a U.S. one though? I can't tell if that is a U.S. restriction on the Bundeswehr. Let's see here. Um, yeah. The final settlement with respect to Germany. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so maybe this is it. Okay, even now Germany is bound by under final settlement of respect to Germany. Okay, let's see here. Oh, let's see here. Commence the treaty. Okay, so apparently there is one. It is the current Bundeswehr though is nowhere near the level that is stipulated in it. So there is that. Let's see here. Who drafted this? I'm trying to see here. Yeah, so I don't know the exact details of it. Um, but yeah. The Treaty of Conventional Forces in Europe. What was that one? Uh, anyways. All right, so yeah, that is where we are at the moment. Okay. Yeah, and Germany continues to demilitarize. So, okay, there's that. I don't. We got completely off topic. I don't even know where we are at the moment. I don't even know how we got onto the whole question of Germany. But yeah, I'm not sure if Germany has ever really made an effort to renegotiate that. So we'll see. I don't think there's any real desire for it. And I mean, like, France. Let's see, how big is the French army? Like, the French army is small, and they don't have any kind of restrictions on what they're able to deal with. In fact, they were really big into being independent, stuff like that. Let's see here. I don't think geopolitics is really a black pill. To be honest, um, I don't know. I think we're going to see some alignment and some changes. I personally think that the U.S. declining in a lot of cases will be a good thing. Let's just take a look at it again. National Endow. So I think it's always good to take a look at these guys. This is America's ultimate weapon, the National Endowment for Democracy. So this is funded by the State Department among a number of private organizations. And what they do is they just kind of go through and spread liberalism all throughout the world. They run like opposition media. They train people to be activists. They fund rent-a-mobs and stuff like that. Let me see here, regions. So like if we look at Eurasia, all the projects that they have here. Countering kleptocracy, promoting investigative journalism. Let's see here. The NAD supports an initiative to advance understanding of how Russia operates and bolster regional civil society organizations to be able to respond. The goal is to establish a community of interest in different regions of the world and build the capacity of local civil society to develop resistances to Russia. So just funding anti-Russian stuff. Let's see here. NED sees its role as strengthening and supporting Russian Democrats by supporting projects. NEG shows solidarity with Russia. Let's see here. Let's see where we are in Europe. The kind of stuff that we have. Advancing the democratic values in European integration. Improving electoral integrity. Okay, as Europe and the world, NED supports projects around key electoral processes and referenda that help increase electoral integrity and transparency through greater civic engagement. Get out the vote campaigns, candidates better informed of platforms. We have all these things in Ukraine. Central Europe, there's democratic backsliding. So we have to basically, if you go through this, they're talking about how they're running like dozens of organizations to try to destroy the local governments and impose liberalism on them. Belarus, they're running all the things in Belarus. They tried to have a colored revolution there. Where's Serbia? Is Serbia just not listed? They got felted in Georgia. They got like completely blown out of Georgia because the Georgian government just told them to fuck off, and they're sad about that. So Armenia, yeah, there's a ton of shit in Armenia. Let's see, where's Georgia? I think they left Georgia. I think they got just kicked out of Georgia. Okay, George, you're spamming the chat. Um, like, cool it, dude. Okay. I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to physically remove you. Okay, there we go. Physically removed. Sorry about what? Did it restart? I thought I removed, turned him off. Okay, well, anyways. Okay, that guy's gone. That's good. Okay, so. So, I don't know. That's all I really had to talk about. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up or have me address before we end the video? Sorry if it was kind of all over the place. We're just exploring some ideas here, some possibilities of what may be going on. So, anyways, God bless everybody. Have a good week.